Oh my gosh, you all. You have no idea the hell that I have been through within the last, say, 45 minutes. This is a pure example of censorship 101. Welcome. Okay, to everybody in the chat, Abby Road, Jen B, Lucy's World, thank you all. I can't see how many people are watching. Let's just say this. The stuff, this must be something they don't want out. So if, for example, or if, for instance, that this live stream goes out in the middle, I don't know what else to tell you. What I'm going to go ahead and do is I'm going to go ahead and put this link that I'm going to be reading in the chat so you all can have it. This is an interview with Dr. Fauci, is what I'm going to call him. And there you go. Now, I found this link just by researching yesterday, or it was 2 days ago I found this. Very, very interesting. I'm not going to read the whole thing because it is pretty lengthy. However, I will get to the meat and potatoes of the interview because it's mind-boggling to say the least. Charlie girls, Lennon, Measy, what's going on, you all? Thanks so much for being here. Yes. The interview, I haven't heard the audio. I've just read it. And I think you can actually understand it a little bit better if you read it yourself. So I will do a screen share as I'm going through it. I'm going to go ahead and turn my phone off. As long as the audio and everything's good, I'm not going to be looking at my phone. Very much a distraction. Okay, let's go ahead and get this going. All right, thanks. If anybody wants to, I would recommend to going to archive.is, copying that link and archiving this. Now, this says 2016, so I'm guessing that's when this interview was done. This is from the Edward M. Kennedy Institute. I do not have chat up at the moment. I'm just going to get down to where I want. Okay, so this is an interview with Dr. Fauci. Heininger is the reporter. This is an interview with Dr. Anthony Fauci on September 10th, 2007. Okay, so there's the answer to my question. Why don't we start at the beginning? Tell us how you first met Kennedy. Now, I believe it's Robert Kennedy. Sorry about that. I believe it's Robert Kennedy that he's talking about, but I guess we'll check back because I don't even know if I got that far. But Fauci says, I knew that was going to be the first question. I've known him for so long that I don't even think I can tell you when I first met him, probably right in the beginning of the HIV epidemic. All right. First of all, I want to say this. If he knew that was going to be the first question, then you would have thought he would have been prepared, right, for the answers to that question. So I want you all to keep that in mind, all right? The HIV epidemic. Before I became director of the National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases. Now, here's the thing. If you look up Dr. Anthony Fauci, all right, let me have him pulled up. I meant to have him pulled up, but I did get a little bit distracted before this live stream. I'm just going to read this to you. Okay, his education is College of the Holy Cross, Weill Cornell Medicine, and Regis High School. Interestingly enough, it does not, it says that he is a physician. Now listen to this. Here's what Google says. Wikipedia says this. Keep this date in mind. Anthony Stephen Fauci, is an American physician and immunologist who has served as the director of the National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases since 1984. Keep that year in mind. That's what Wikipedia says. Now, Wikipedia should not ever be a factual website because it can be edited, okay? But everything else I have found says 1984, 1984. Now, what we need to do is find where he was at before 1984. Was he still within the National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Disease? Was he not a director? Was he just there? Because it says he served as the director since 1984. We need to find out where he was before the NIAID, okay? There's a reason for all this. Pay attention. Keep 1984. Now look, as you know, I was one of the first people to get involved in HIV back in 1981. Another key date, you all. And he was among, if not among, who was Kennedy, the first politician who immediately took a very keen interest. Of course, he had obviously, historically, a great interest in health, particularly health for disenfranchised people. When the first cases came up of HIV, I remember getting calls from his staff wanting a bit of briefing, first with them and then with him. So probably the first time that I met him was down at the office in the early years before I became the director of the Institute. So that kind of answers our question before he became director. And it was centered around the issue of HIV/AIDS, acquired in immunodeficiency syndrome. HIV was not yet discovered. We didn't even call it AIDS at the time. Keep that in mind. Interesting that he knows that they didn't even call it AIDS at the time. So how was he for sure? And I'm guessing that can all be backed up with laboratory testing as far as the whole aspect of the disease. You know, how they have certain T cells and stuff that go along with the whole product of the disease. So I'm guessing that's where he gets that. But just keep that in mind. 1981, 1984. He says no. Fauci says it was the very beginning. I was very excited about the fact that he was interested in it. Of course, I had very early on made a decision in my own career to divert away from what I was doing with just classic immunology and infectious diseases and begin to start studying this group of people who were literally measured in handfuls early on. The first case reports from Morbidity and Mortality Weekly report was in June of 1981. He says there were 5 cases. Pay very close attention. It actually dealt with pneumonia in individuals in Los Angeles. Okay. Then a month later, the second weekly report was about 20 plus patients who not only had pneumonia, but also Kaposi sarcoma for 3 cities, Los Angeles, San Francisco, and New York. So it was picked up in this country first. Really now? Fauci says it was. So, AIDS was picked up in this country first. Now, that's not the bombshell, okay? But how many of you all in the chat, now I can't see chat right now, but how many of you all in the chat knew that AIDS actually started here? Simple question. Fauci says it was. Reporter says here before the connection was made to Africa. Fauci says absolutely. It definitely was picked up here. So that's the reason why there was that confusion in the beginning. Is this a strange disease of gay men? Then, as it evolved, literally week after week after week, you'd get the unfolding and the evolution of the epidemiology, blah, 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 which made it clear that it wasn't restricted just to gay men, that it was a sexually transmitted disease, that it was bloodborne, because injection drug users and recipients of blood and blood products were getting in. Then the first cases of mothers who were injection drug users, who were giving it to their kids. Then the Haitian situation, which was a big red herring, and which was probably a roundabout way of Africa to Haiti. Four gay men who went to Haiti for pleasure type weekends and were infected. We still don't know whether the gay men from New York infected the Haitians or the Haitians were the first ones to give it to them when they came back from Africa. It's unclear. However, you will find out that this man totally contradicts himself very much throughout this interview, or from the terms that I've read within this interview. Pay close attention. The reporter says, well, let's back up just a minute. The first episodes, because I think we want to pinpoint where Kennedy comes in. The first things you were picking up were in this report, which is the Morbidity and Mortality Weekly Report, coming out of Los Angeles. Fauci says the CDC. Why didn't he just state that from the beginning? He could have just said the CDC reports, right? But no, he said the Morbidity and Mortality Weekly. Interesting. The reporter says, so the CDC reports were coming in, first out of LA, and then they were picked up in San Francisco. Was it linked to gay men at that point? He initially says it was all gay men. It was all gay men, so it was picked up initially that way. All gay men in the beginning. Now, how does he know that? Okay, we're talking about a doctor that also predicted that there would be no doubt that Trump would have a surprise virus attack within his presidency. I call this double dipping, you all. What they do is and this is my opinion. This is solely my opinion. You all can do your research, but this part is my opinion. That they help create this virus. Then they in turn create a VAX for the actual virus. There's no way he would be able to be psychic and a doctor. And Bill Gates as well, who both are connected to the WHO Foundation, who is actually at the moment being investigated by the presidency of the United States. Just thought I'd point that out there. So Fauci says it was all gay men in the beginning. He says with basically pneumonia. Fauci says, right, exactly. The first 5 cases. Now, how does he know this? The first 5 cases came from LA, were all gay men. How does he know they weren't drug users as well? And then the others from New York, LA, and San Francisco. How the heck does he know all this? And then the reporter goes on to say, so it was bi-coastal. Fauci says, so it was bi-coastal. And particularly in those areas. I mean, there were lots of things going on from a sociological standpoint, which were very clear. The Kennedy connection is that Ted had always been very open-minded about gay men. So now we go, it's Ted Kennedy, okay? Ted was always open-minded about gay men, about people who were disenfranchised, any people who didn't have good health coverage, whether you were an injection drug user or whatever. It was very clear that he was empathetic towards people in need. Reporter says, right. Fauci says, and that's the reason why I think Early on, he rose as the champion of helping us in so many ways. So we actually need to do further research on what exactly Ted Kennedy helped Fauci do. Okay? The reporter says, when was it first picked up in the media? Pay close attention. Fauci says, it was first picked up in the media in the summer of 1981. Two people to whom you probably should talk with would be Larry Altman, who is the medical correspondent of the New York Times, and David Perlman of the San Francisco Chronicle. They were among a very few who wrote many of the first stories on it. And then a lot of other people came in after that. Did Kennedy's interest start this early? Fauci says, to be honest with you, I would hope that he's always honest, but I'm not sure. I'm not 100% sure when his public interest started. It was very clear that by that time I became the director of the NIAID in 1984 that he was involved, because I almost immediately began testifying at many, many hearings. By 1984, he was very much all over the topic. Now, I thought he said earlier in 1981, okay, he was director. Is that not what he said? Trust me, I haven't got to the bombshell yet. Now, we knew he worked there. Right here, check this out. Before I became director, he was one of the first people to get involved back. So that was before he became director. So he still worked there in 1981. He became the director in 1984. Make yourselves a note of that. We know he worked there. He just wasn't the actual director yet. Okay. So it says he became director in 1984 and that Ted Kennedy was involved because Fauci almost immediately began testifying at many, many hearings. By 1984, Ted Kennedy was much all over the topic. Do you recall whether it was his staff that picked it up, speaking of Ted Kennedy, and contacted you initially, or whether he picked it up and went to his staff? Fauci says, I don't know. Reporter says, these are questions we'll ask him, but we also try to ask others. This is a very good reporter. I have very much respect for this reporter because he knows how to ask the questions and when to ask them. Fauci says, I don't know, because he has such a good relationship with staff that staff will contact you, and it was under the assumption that the senator was interested in it. Not that we're trying to get senators interested. Always. Looks like it's always trying to be political, right? It was almost always when you have a conversation with his staff that the senator would like to know such and such, or would you be willing to come down and give us a briefing? The senator is interested. Well, sure. You're talking about an epidemic here, right? So the reporter says, do you have any memory of who first contacted you? Fauci says, I'm sorry, I do not remember offhand. So what's the reporter do? He helps him. Was it Larry Horowitz? Fauci says, Larry Horowitz for sure was involved back then. And there was also a young woman. I forgot her name. Mona Sarfati? Fauci says, Mona, that's right, yes. Larry and Mona were some of the earliest ones, definitely. The reporter says, I have to see Larry next month. Okay, so they were the early. Noted. Fauci says, yes, they were the early ones. I'm sorry I'm not as good as a historian because we've had such a close, continual relationship over the last 20 plus years that it's kind of all merged into one. So as the epidemic started to unfold, we got the beginnings of understanding what it was. The AIDS virus was discovered in 1983. I'm sorry, Fauci. I thought you said that it was 1981, right? Now, I understand you probably spoke with these individuals and asked them, when did they start becoming sick? When did they start, becoming sexually active and all that stuff? But you were pretty sure that it started in 1981 and not before that, 1981, as if you had some inside knowledge. So he says the virus was discovered in 1983 by the French. I'm sorry, I thought you said it originated here. So, which is it, Fauci? Did it actually originate here from Los Angeles, San Francisco, and New York? Or was it discovered by the French and then confirmed in 1984? So he's just all over the place. And trust me, it gets better. And proven to be the cause of AIDS. So, was it AIDS that was in 1981? Or I thought the virus came before the disease, right? So he's saying that the virus was discovered in 1983, but earlier he said that AIDS was 1981. The virus was discovered in 1983 by the French and then confirmed in 1984 and proven to be the cause of AIDS by Robert Gallo and his colleagues. That's the reason why they co-share the credit. Of course, the French actually first identified it in 1983. Then Gallo put the finishing touches of the connection. Causality between the virus itself and the disease. Once the virus was identified, then there was an explosion of information because you could just do a test and then you did the surveillance. We often use the term the tip of the iceberg. Let's keep that one in mind, right? When dealing with these epidemics, right? Because when I admitted the first HIV patient, okay, so basically he admitted the first HIV patient, the first HIV patient 0, right? Here at the NIH, which is the National Institute of Health, in the summer and fall of 1981. I'm sorry, I thought you just said that the French discovered it in 1983 and then confirmed in 1984, and now you're telling us that you had patient 0 in the summer and fall of 1981. Which is it, Dr. Fauci? I think you know a little bit more than what you're telling us. Was there some connection, Dr. Fauci? How do you know that you had the first HIV patient? Okay? And yes, that's part of the big bombshell here, because how in the world would he know? Let me go ahead and record this, and I am going to look at the chat real quick to see where you all are at. Measy, Nobleness D, AIDS would have been known first. Right, yeah, I get that. I get that because the virus comes before the disease. But he is all over the place. Initially, he said it came from Los Angeles, San Francisco, and New York. Now he's saying that he had patient 0, but then it was discovered by the French first. So which is it? I believe his hands are way too deep to where he cannot even keep up with his own lies, and that's usually how a lie works. Now, you all can read this interview for yourself and do your own research, but from what I'm gathering right here, reading in front of you all, something does not add up. Yes, exactly. It makes no sense, a complete contradiction. He said it initially, and, the fact that he said it was all gay men. All gay men. He didn't just say, I think. He said all gay men. And then later on in the interview, he tells what he thinks, or I'm sorry, what he knows, since Mr. Fauci seems to know everything about everything. Let's just hope that the WHO is investigated very clearly, and Fauci and Mr. Bill Gates are both connected in with the WHO. And yes, guess what, guys? Bill Gates has the vaccine. He owns the patent for the corona COVID-19. He owns the patent for corona 060606. I don't see, people like to say conspiracy, conspiracy, but you know what? When I have facts to back up everything I say, it's not a conspiracy. I will gladly wear my tinfoil hat. If you want to stay asleep and continue to take that blue sleeping pill, go right ahead. But I know when I leave this earth that I will feel better knowing that I tried to speak the truth. Unimatrix. All right, let me mute real quick. I've got to get a drink. One other thing is, I said this a few days ago, and then the next day I found a YouTube video stated that, is it a possibility that Trump actually keeps his enemies or his friends close and his enemies closer? Because I had just got through stating that. That's what I think he does. How does a president go from retweeting a comment that says fire Fauci, and then when asked about it from the press, says, oh, well, it was just a difference of opinion. I just decided to retweet it because it was a difference of opinion. No, I'm sorry. The investigation of the WHO, the WHO, is right along the lines of investigating Fauci and Bill Gates. Plus that live stream that I did last. It was Trump administration actually opposing the digital tracking in the vaccine that they want to use for COVID. Let's get back to this interview. Let me get it to where I can see. Oh, I can't see the chat. I can't do both. Let me see if it'll let me do a pop-out chat real quick. Hold on. All right, let me just bear with me, guys. I am going to open this in a whole new window just so I can see the chat. 2 seconds. Application window, Chrome tab. Nope, wrong one. So I'm guessing that's the share screen, Chrome tab, second one. There we go. That's what I wanted. All right. No, I want this on the left. Sorry. Picky. Snap right. No. Sorry. I don't know what I want anymore, you guys. After what I've been through, I think I deserve a little bit of a laugh. It's been hard, guys. All right. Now, mind you, I'm not going to read chat until I look at it. So hold on just a second. want to co-share the credit of finding a disease anyways. I'm just saying. All right. So as the epidemic started to unfold, we got the beginnings of understanding what it was. The virus was discovered in 1983, yet I thought you had patient zero in 1981, Fauci. Which is it? The virus was discovered in 1983 by the French and then confirmed in 1984 and proven to be the cause of AIDS. That's the reason why they co-share the credit. Of course, the French actually first identified it in 1983. Then Gallo put the finishing touches of the connection between the virus itself and the disease. Once the virus was identified, there was an explosion of information because you could do a test. And yes, I know I'm repeating myself. And then you did the surveillance. We often use the tip of the iceberg, blah, 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 blah. Okay, so the National Institutes of Health was in the summer and fall of 1981. And at that time, when I, as in Fauci, made the strategic decision to stop or phase out what I was doing. What exactly were you doing, Fauci? I need an answer, because this just keeps getting more confusing and you're conflicting and you're also contradicting yourself, Dr. Fauci. I made the strategic decision to stop or phase out what I was doing and concentrate almost completely on this new disease. People thought I was nuts. Why are you concentrating on this brand new disease of gay men only? And I was saying, this, now look, he's making another prediction, guys. Watch out. You know, just like he said there was no doubt that Trump would have a surprise attack of a virus, of a flu-like pandemic, okay? Fauci said, this is not just going to stay with gay men. Trust me, it's going to be a major, major problem. Think of double dipping, you guys. What made you think that it was going to go far beyond that, the reporter asks. Just because I'm an infectious disease person, and in my mind, all the cards were stacked up right. It was a sexually transmitted disease, blood and blood products, which, yes, I agree that makes sense, which falls with injection drug use. Usually where there is sex, there is drugs, I guess. In his eyes, I guess. Injection drug use. And the one thing that is very clear is that if there was one thing that we know globally as a universal given, that's sex. Everybody's having sex. So if you have a sexually transmitted disease, that's a deadly disease, particularly if you have multiple sex partners, as was associated with the brand new found sexual freedom of the gay community that occurred in the late 60s. With the Stonewall Bar riots, they finally were allowed to essentially do what they wanted to do without getting harassed by the police or arrested. So, in other words, he thinks that's where it initiated from, back in the late 60s. And then he states that he had patient zero in 1981, yet it was not discovered until 1983, 1984 by the French. But yet he said it originated from Los Angeles, New York, and San Francisco. Which is it, Dr. Fauci? What do you know that we don't? Because you're really telling on yourself. They finally were allowed to essentially do what they wanted. That sort of gave away to the bathhouse gay bar culture and the intensity of the bathhouse culture in New York, San Francisco, and Los Angeles. So it was the perfect storm for an explosion of an STD. Is that right, Dr. Fauci? You seem to know an awfully lot about this epidemic, don't you? What we didn't appreciate at the time, but that we started to gain insight into in the early years when we sent a couple of teams to Africa, particularly to Kinshasa in the former Zaire, was that almost all of the transmissibility in Africa was heterosexual, so not gay. Pay attention. So we were saying, wait a minute, this is not going to be confined to the gay population. It's probably going to wind up exploding throughout the world, particularly in those cultures in which sexual permissiveness is culturally different than it is in more of a puritanical country like our own. That was early 80s, 84, 85. You know what? I thought he had notes, especially if he knew that was going to be the first question, right? The reporter says, when was the African connection made? Very good reporter. I like this reporter. I will say again, pay attention. Fauci says the African connection was made very early, even before the virus was discovered. Is that right? It was nailed down right around, here we go, some more dates, guys. It was nailed down right around 84, 85, 86. So, the virus initiated in Los Angeles, San Francisco, and New York among gay men only. So basically, he's stating that it originated here in the United States, and we took it to Africa. When they started to do sero surveys, okay, I'm going to do that real quick. Not right now, but later. And found out what a very large proportion of populations, particularly pregnant women who would come into clinics, and you do screening, or people who were coming in to donate blood. When the test first came into the clinics in Africa, anywhere from 30 to 40% of them were infected. That's very interesting, Dr. Fauci. Because it was the people who needed the money, be they commercial sex workers or what have you. Well, how does he know that they weren't drug users? Just saying. They were the ones who were selling their blood. They were early on transmitting it both through blood products as well as through sexual contact. But initially, he was for sure 100% it was gay men only, right? What if these people were also selling and donating blood in San Francisco, New York, and Los Angeles? How does he know all of this stuff? There's just too much information. I'm sorry. Does anybody else see a problem with this stuff? So it started to become a social issue in the United States. So he goes from Africa back to the U.S. without even being questioned. Because gay men were frightened. They didn't feel anyone cared about them. They felt that the government wasn't doing enough. I think that was the theme that brought Kennedy in, that the government needs to be doing more. So here he goes, making it political. So initially he contacted Kennedy, I would say. What are we doing? Are we doing everything that we possibly can do? Was he already within a political standpoint like he is now then? Because he's initially talking about the government. Are we doing everything that we possibly can do? What are we doing? And that was in two arenas, he says. One was getting enough resources for research and health associated issues. Then, as the first drugs started to come about with the AZT. Now, I'm going to state this. AZT actually is an autoimmune suppressor drug. I will link a very, very good video in the description that you all need to watch about AZT. AZT was actually not only suppressing one's immune system that actually had the virus, but it was actually causing them to end up with leukemia. And they were ending up succumbing of AIDS, but ended up dying of leukemia. Okay? This drug was first approved back in 1987. I believe that's when the Kennedy connection was starting to really be felt, because he wanted fair and equitable treatment for people who could not have access to clinical trials. Clinical trials were very restricted. Also, there was community. A lot of the trials were confined to the secondary and tertiary medical centers, where it was very difficult for people at the community level, be they poor gay men, African Americans, other minorities, and other people who were in a less affluent situation, who didn't have health insurance, didn't have a connection with a big-time doctor. In reality, and clearly to the perception of Kennedy, they didn't have access to the clinical trials that were being conducted by the NIH and the drugs that were being evaluated for approval by the FDA. Now, I've not gotten this far within the interview, so please excuse me if I mess up on some words, okay? Just saying. And I might not even go anywhere past this, because you all can read it for the most part for yourself. And I wanted to point out that there's a little bit more, I believe, than Fauci is willing to say, even though he's already told on himself. Thanks, Jen B. Yeah, always adjust that tinfoil hat. Make sure that it's completely on top of your head. And if you could make it a little bit long enough to where it covers your ears as well, that would be great. Thanks. Joanne Steen, what's going on? All right, give me just a second. You know, since it took me so long to even just get here, I'm like, just my stress level is all the way up there. You know, my tinfoil hat done fell off, and I don't know, I think I stepped on it. All right, so I don't know how much longer I'm going to go on this interview, because if you can tell right here, it goes all the way down and then some. Very, very, very long interview, but I do commend this reporter, because this reporter is amazing. And guess what? This website right here, the EMK Institute, has all kinds of interviews. So, you know, I'm just going to just dive into this sometime and just have some fun, you know? You know, don't you know? It was falling down a bit, Jen says, but I got it adjusted. We're good now. Sorry for the disruption. Oh, that's quite okay, Jen B. Thank you for pointing that out. Life with Jen is at her desk like a student. Good student. Good student, Jen. Melissa Costner says, I cry daily. Oops, I cry daily. This crap is so bad and corruption makes me sick. I'm sorry, Melissa. I don't mean to make you cry, but I kind of like to try to add a little bit of humor in this god-awful world that we live in. Just saying. No problem, Psyched for Life, Eva. I love to share information with you guys, especially after my computer was like going like nothing. It was doing nothing. Not only did my blood sugar drop, that's what happened the last 2 days, but my computer needed to update Windows. And then, even though I changed the time from 2 a.m. to 5 a.m. for it to do updates, I still did it. And then my internet. Xfinity couldn't find an issue. Windows Diagnostics couldn't find an issue. Then I tried to do a phone hotspot tethered from my phone to my computer. That wouldn't work. Then I was even trying to do 5G. Yes, I said 5G. That's how bad I wanted to get this out to you guys. But thank goodness God answered my prayers and was able to get this going. So should I carry on or should I just talk to you guys in chat? It's up to you. Oh, it's okay. Thanks, Charlie Girl says. Joanne, don't leave. I love you. Aw, okay. God bless you too, honey. Joanne Steen, if you all aren't aware, Joanne is my Aussie friend. She's awesome. She does conspiracy / watches all kinds of webcams that are live, and she finds all this crazy stuff. She's very good at researching, and she's just an amazing friend, and she's awesome to talk to. So if you want, check out her channel, Joanne Steen too. All right, so what do you guys want to do? Patriots Day is today. Yes. Thanks, David Castle. Appreciate that. What happened to Rob? What's up with Rob? I can't see Rob. Where's Rob? Much best friends. Oh, I'm so sorry. Rob, much love to you all and to your friends. I will definitely pray for you all and your boss's best friend. You're welcome, Joanne. No problem, Rob. See, we can't even find channel links anymore. She's the only Joanne Steen 2. Make sure that you don't put a space in between the number 2 and the letters. You shouldn't have any trouble finding her. Unimatrix, I'm doing good now, thank you. All right, so you guys need to tell me what you want to do. Do you want me to keep reading a little bit more of this, or do y'all just want to chat it up? Because I know some other people have live scheduled. I was planning on being done by 9, so I've got about 10 more minutes and I have to wrap it up. Always, Joanne, keep safe and prayed up. Much love to you as well, honey. Thanks, guys. I appreciate you all coming in tonight and being patient and waiting here with me, because it took a lot of effort just to go live here tonight. I have never, since 2012, I've never had this much of an issue as far as going live. And I was bound and determined to do it. Now, if my phone had more than 25%, I probably would have just turned my phone on and started recording my screen. But then again, I couldn't get my internet going to pull up the screen. I didn't know what I was going to do. Love you, Aaron. K Mello, what's up? Aw, I used to play Words with Friends. Thank you, dear. Red Raider says, Smalls, can you believe Texas is opening up everything but schools? Yeah, I can believe. Actually, I thought that Texas would be one of the first, just because of the controversial state that Texas is. Texas is very much constitutionally oriented, which we all should be. So, yeah. I'm not surprised at all that Texas opened everything up but schools. And the thing is, with opening up the schools, is it's almost the end of the school season anyways, especially if they have year-round school. So they might as well just continue the learning online instead of having to get the kids out and trying to get them back on a schedule after being out of school so long. So it kind of does make sense. Hey, Tim. Thanks, I appreciate that. They are messing with many. There's so many that their stuff's been taken away and they're being censored. It's absolutely crazy, especially right now. Melissa, curious as to what I think is going on. Not saying the sickness isn't real, but I've never in my life seen folks not be able to hold a loved one's hand when they pass. That should be our choice, period. Honestly, here's what I'm going to say to that. I'm going to actually answer by saying 2 things, Melissa. It is your God-given right, whether if my loved one died and I wanted to be able to hug them, hold their hand, or whatever, that's up to me, period. I'm sorry. You cannot tell me to not do that. And these whole drive through services that they're having, drive through graveside services, if that. And I think that they're actually making people get cremated. It's, God gave us rights. So, you know, I don't think that they can actually stop us. If I had to drive to that morgue myself, I would. You ain't going to tell me I can't do something, especially when it comes to a loved one. And here's the thing. I don't know if you've done your research or heard anything, but an actual MD/senator came out. He was giving directions. And I will have you all know that per state, it depends on the state, but each state is given so much of an amount of X amount of dollars, 12,000 and above, to actually put COVID-19 as the COD, the cause of death, on the death certificate. Now, they don't even necessarily have to die from it. They could have a pneumonia related to the COVID, and instead of putting pneumonia on the death certificate like the doctor should be doing, they are being told to automatically put COVID. If that person didn't even have COVID, say that person didn't even test positive, but they had someone that they had come in contact with that tested positive, and that person dies, even though they didn't even test positive and they died, but yet they come in contact with somebody, they're supposed to put cause of death COVID. This senator/MD came out and said, I am not going to follow those rules and regulations. I am going to do what I was trained in the right thing to do. So that right there tells you the numbers are fudged. Thanks for the donation, Unimatrix. I appreciate that. God bless you, my dear, my friend. You didn't have to do that, honey. I know everybody's having a hard time right now. And the week of the 22nd, I'm going to be doing my giveaway. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to split it between 4 people. That way, more people have a chance of getting it. I will put up a video. All you have to do is comment. I'll be able to pick a random commenter. All I ask is that you are subscribed to the channel. Comment, only one comment, okay? And I'm going to do 4 $25 digital gift cards. I need no personal or private information from you. If I choose your comment, I will speak it out loud. I need you to send me an email that says giveaway and your screen name so that I can verify with the email and just say winner. And, that's all I need from you is an email, okay? And I will verify through the email if that's your screen name or not, okay? And you will be given 24 hours to contact me back. If I do not hear from you within 24 hours, because I'm going to wait a week until I give away the digital cards, okay? So if I don't hear from you within 24 hours, I will then decide on what I'm going to do with it. I might just add it to the other winners that have actually gotten back with me, because to do another random giveaway, it's going to actually pick doubles, so I don't want that to happen. So here within the next week, I'm going to do a video. All you have to do is comment and we'll go from there. And I'm not going to do the giveaway live. I don't think I will. It's just, especially with the time that I had today. But I'll probably just do a community post with the winners. I will screen record me picking the winners, though, just for transparency reasons. Appreciate it, Measy. Thanks so much, honey. You know I love you. You didn't have to do that, honey. Thanks, Mia. Long Reach 1, what's going on? Appreciate it. David Castle, on April 19th, 1775, the Revolutionary War started. April 19th, 2020. How awesome would it be if the day after Patriots that FISA arrest starts and lead to something larger? Love you all. David, we can only hope and pray. But you know what? I do understand that these things take long, right? And we want to make sure that things are done right. And these things take time. That's what I continue, and that's what I've said for years now, ever since Trump started talking about the indictments. They do take time. You want to make sure it's done right because you do not, let me repeat, you do not want double jeopardy to fall into place, because once that is an issue, they can't be double charged. You got it? So you got to make sure that it's done right. And usually, if it sounds too good to be true, it usually is. So, we can just pray and hope that it gets done and hope that he keeps his word. And I'm not some Q-tard, but I do think there's a little bit of legitimacy in some of those posts. If you'll hold on just a second, let me mute real quick. Okay, so do y'all want me to read a little bit more of this? I'm not sure. I haven't read past that, but I am going to leave the link to this interview, because after you read it about 3 times, it just, he's just full of BS. Rob Stewart, I really appreciate that. K Small's been subbed to you a long time. Appreciate everything you do. Much love. Much love to you too, Rob Stewart. Really means a lot. You have no idea. I like the positive comments, of course, the best, but I also like the constructive criticism. I actually, I invite it. If you can call me out or on something that I've said wrong, go ahead. We all make mistakes. And also too, if you've done your research and note something that I've said that's wrong, please, so I can correct myself, because by far I do not want at all to tell you all something that's not truthful. Tim Blosh says, I've gave mass to elderly neighbors who couldn't find any. I think Jesus has me. Yeah, I think Jesus has you too, Tim. Yeah. What was it? My mom told me the other day, she's in the chat, she said that she went through drive-through, I think it was, and gave somebody some hand sanitizer, and you would have thought you gave her the world. I think she even got a little teary-eyed, so that was really sweet. And the same day I went through drive-through and offered somebody some, but he said he had some. So it's just so crazy the way that me and my mom think alike, especially like we'll finish each other's sentences. We'll text each other the same things at the same time. I'm like, yeah, it's getting a little scary, Mom. Thanks, Long Reach One. I appreciate it. You know what? This is your all's channel. This is not my channel. This is your all's channel because, I do it for you all. I do it for all of you all. And if it wasn't because of you all, I wouldn't be here on this platform. So much love to each and every one of you all. I know I do have a lot of people that watch afterwards, a lot of lurkers, a lot of people that don't like to comment in the chat, and, a lot of people that don't like any of the drama. I'm really getting away from that. It's just, I feel if I ever have to, stand up for myself, I do that. I try to not do it all the time. I don't look for it. I don't go seek it. Trust me, if I responded to everything negative, I'd be going live all the time. I try not to go live unless it's, I deem it necessary, unless I feel led to do it. So I appreciate each and every one of you for coming here. And I love chatting with you guys too. Of course, I don't like to just do a chat live, with nothing to talk about. I like to have at least something on the agenda to speak of. And with that being said, it's already 9 o'clock. I've got a couple of friends that are actually going live at the moment. So if you all don't mind, I'm going to go ahead and hop off here. Also, too, I had to do another stream because StreamYard did not connect in with the one I did for my phone. I planned that one from my phone, so that's why I had to do a whole new stream to begin with. But still, it ended up working out for the best, I think. I appreciate all of you guys being here. Thanks for being so patient with me. And I will try to put all the links as soon as I'm done here. Get the links to you all. And if you find anything interesting within this interview that I did not point out, please put it in the comments. If your comment does not show up right away, trust me, I have some that I have to review. It's not that I've deleted it or anything like that. A lot of the comments I have to review before posting. And it's not that I don't like hate comments, okay? I invite those as well. It's just I have personal reasons for having to approve the comments, okay? All right, guys, I'm going to go ahead and hop off here. Happy Sabbath to you all. Shalom. God bless you all. I hope you all have a great weekend. Prayers go out to each and every one of you all. Stay vigilant, stay prayed up, keep your oils filled with keep your lamps filled with oil, okay? And just stay cautious and pray for others, even your enemies, okay? Much love, you guys. Have a great weekend. Have a great day. Bye.